Salofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susanna Suisuiki. Coming up, questions linger over media freedom in Samoa. Also,
the government maybe should think about having some public transport, some buses.
Tongans prepare to head to the polls, and Manu Samoa book their ticket to the Rugby World Cup. We check back in on media freedom in Samoa. I spoke with our RNZ Pacific Samoa correspondent, Ngalo Malemana Tipi Autangavaia, who was in the room when Samoa's Prime Minister, Lauli Ale Maliatoa Lewatia Polatai Val Schmidt, banned the Samoa Observer from all ministerial press conferences.
Well, interestingly, when we were there looking forward to meet the Prime Minister after 8 weeks in New Zealand for medical treatments, he called a press conference on his first day back in office on Monday. None of us expecting something like this, but he kicked off the press conference with the announcement of the ban on journalists of the only daily newspaper we have here. And, I feel the same from most of our journalists who attended. I was in shock. I didn't know this is going to happen. But the decision is made and the ban is in place. And I can see that many of media organizations, if not many, but some, are now raising concerns with the media ban and calling on the government, especially the Minister, to reconsider. And I think, speaking for myself, as someone in the industry and being a journalist for over 30 years, I think it was very premature, the decision to impose a ban. If there are concerns raised because of some of the reports and the way the journalists of the daily paper handled their approach to meet the Prime Minister last Saturday to confirm his return to Samoa, there is a procedure put in place in the Samoa Media Act to file a complaint. And I think that's the process I think it should be followed before any such decision of a ban is reached.
While you guys were there, why didn't you guys question him as soon as he announced that ban?
Good question. Even myself, I came with lots of good issues for public interest to ask the Prime Minister. And I think for most of us, especially the President was there, of our national media organization, we were all to myself, I was very shocked to hear the announcement made in a press conference.
I mean,
because none of us came with any thinking of an announcement of a ban which against one of our colleagues. And also we need to understand the reasons behind the ban.
Do you think the ban is valid?
Well, that's his own, that's his rights to make that decision. But as the Prime Minister, I don't think he has that power to do that.
I just want to clarify, Tipi, you're part of the JAWS executive, right?
I am.
There's a report that another JAWS exec member commented on a Facebook post saying that a Samoa Observer journalist should have been punched. Is that true?
Well, I saw screenshots of the comment shared on social media. And, we had discussions with some of the board members of the media organization, and we're very concerned. But one of our colleagues in the executive is making comments of such in social media, going against another media. She should consider herself as a board member of the National Media Organization. And I'm telling you this, that we are doing something. We want to meet with the member and also discuss what had happened.
Okay, so you've raised concern about your colleagues' behavior online.
Very.
What about La'auli's ban on Samoa Observer? Will JAWS be making an official statement on this?
Well, we're calling. There will be a statement coming up but we are calling on the Prime Minister to lift the ban.
I see that it's
And we're
temporary.
also,
Is that true?
we're calling about, that's what that was put in papers in a press statement after the press conference.
Right.
But I understand no ban is for good. It's only temporary. But we're calling on the Prime Minister in our statement coming up soon to lift the ban. And also we're calling on journalists to do their work accordingly to the code of practice and observe the code of ethics. And also, read it thoroughly, because the guideline for us in the way we do our work is there. But we stand for any other media outlet in a democratic country. We stand strong for freedom of the press, freedom of expression.
What do you think of the claim that those who are pro-Samoa Observer are HRPP supporters and those who are anti-Samoa Observer are FAST supporters? What do you make of that?
Well, I don't know, because it's the way media reports, Even in myself, if I report maybe 2 or 3 stories in a week or in a bulletin, all from the HRPP, the social media people will tell, oh, he's HRPP, he's pro-HRPP. And if I report a lot of stories from FAST, oh, he's pro-FAST HRPP, pro-FAST reporter. So this is the view of people. When you do so much of, views of another party, they said, oh, you are with that party. But, this is our work, daily work. We report what comes out of whatever political party. We don't take sides in any political party. But this is the reaction of the Samoan people. When you do so much for such political party, they interpret it that you are part of that party. But I don't think so.
Okay, now turning to the press conference itself, as you said earlier, this was La'oli's first press conference after returning to the country from medical leave. What issues did the Prime Minister cover? Well, mainly his return to Samoa and what had happened in Parliament during the budget debate and some of the other developments in the new government. But we have questions of other issues for public interest, especially in the 1 million tala district project, where the government's steering committee is now considering to impose some of the changes, where candidates who ran in the general election in August are now applying for the position of chairperson in those committees of different districts. Cool. Whereas from the beginning of that 1 million dollar project, it was members of parliament from those constituency chairs the committee. But there's a lot of I believe there will be a lot of new changes in the in that project, which is funded by the government. All right. Well, in lighter news, Manu Samoa have qualified for the 2027 Rugby World Cup after defeating Belgium. Were there any celebrations? Oh, there's a lot of talk on social media and everywhere of happiness because we finally made it to the World Cup in 2027. But looking at the scores, Belgium didn't want to lose. They also want to go to the World Cup. However, we were lucky to have a draw of 13, but I think we have more points than Belgium, so we are the lucky ones. Vanuatu's climate minister says multilateralism is in bad shape. Ralph Regenvanu is at the United Nations Climate Change Conference COP30 in Belém, Brazil. Caleb Fotheringham has more.
More than 80 countries have joined a call for a roadmap to phase out fossil fuels at the United Nations climate meeting. A press conference held by the Marshall Islands pushing for the roadmap had about 20 countries in attendance, including Kenya, UK and Colombia. Vanuatu's climate minister, Ralph Regenvanu, was also there.
We are wanting this roadmap on a just and equitable transition away from fossil fuels. And so there is now this group forming, and people who had been in Paris was saying it was reminiscent of what happened there, where a group of countries came together and said, this is our position. For me, that's a very encouraging thing.
But Mr. Regenvanu says the multilateral system used at international forums has deteriorated over the past year. he expects pushback from the proposal in the negotiation rooms from a few states.
As you know, the UNFCCC process is consensus, and it only takes one or two countries to stop consensus. And that's unfortunately what we find ourselves facing in when we negotiate.
Meanwhile, discussions for who will host COP31 next year are ongoing. Kiribati Minister Ruth Ross-Kwan-Singh, who's at the meeting, says the places that really need attention when it comes to climate change, like the Pacific, are not getting it. She says this could be helped by the region hosting the climate meeting.
Think of this like an arrow, right? This arrow of climate change that's piercing everybody around the world. But then when you really think about that tipping point, the sharpest point of that arrow, it's going through the Pacific first. And those are the special circumstances that we're talking about. We're not seeing enough attention where it is desperately needed.
An area of consistent concern for the Pacific is the difficulty of accessing climate finance. Their response has been to set up a regional fund called the Pacific Resilience Facility, which was ratified at the Pacific Islands Forum Leaders Summit in Honiara earlier this year. The general manager of the fund, Manu Samoa, who's at COP30, says $333 million still needs to be raised to reach the initial capitalization target of $500 million.
The need is still real. Our communities need access to climate financing, and in spite of billions and billions of dollars going into the global vertical funds, there are still people left behind, and none more so as is true in the Pacific, in our part of the world.
She says the Pacific projects its voice loudly at international climate meetings, but their concerns have fallen on deaf ears.
The attention to climate is what it is today because of the Pacific's voice. But the sad thing is they've heard it, they've seen it. Even the scientists are telling everybody, and yet. So we have to find solutions for ourselves.
COP30 is now entering the final stretch, with the closing scheduled for Friday in Belém. Past talks have dragged on longer when consensus on important agenda items was not reached.
From fixing roads to tackling the country's fuel woes, many Tongans know exactly what they want from their next government. On Thursday, they'll say it with their vote as the general election polling gets underway. Te Wila Fotai reports from Nuku'alofa.
For business owner Miriame, there's one main thing she reckons a new government could help with.
For them to support and then look for funds to support the local businesses, especially the small businesses like us.
Ofa Tupo sums up his ask in 3 words.
Fix the road.
5 minutes out of the main part of town, I stop at a gas station roped off because it's out of fuel. More than a dozen cars are lined up around it, waiting for it to open again after a tanker refills the empty pumps. In the queue is Celia Vailala.
We've been sitting here for 2 hours. It's now 3 o'clock and they just told us it's not opening until 7 p.m.
She says it's high time the government sorts it out and looks beyond short-term fixes.
With the fuel consumption, it's such a small island and there's too many cars on the road. There is no public transport. Yes, I've seen maybe 1 or 2 buses full of school students, but there's no public transport. The government maybe should think about having some public transport, some buses.
Caretaker Prime Minister Dr. Aisake Eke told media at the beginning of the week emergency fuel supplies are on the way. In an interview with PMN, he says the lack of fuel storage capacity at the country's 2 major supply companies is a significant factor.
Last year, the 2 companies, which is of course the Totals and also Pacific Energy, they have agreed that the existing storage, two of them, for the Total need to be undergoing maintenance.
Dr. Eke will be among thousands casting their ballot on Thursday. He's also a potential candidate for Prime Minister, as is his predecessor, Huakava Meiliki Siaosi Sovaleni. Neither have stated outright they're interested in the top job, unlike nobles Lord Whakavanua and Lord Tuivakano, who've each declared interest in the role. Meanwhile, Peter Vuki, Tonga's supervisor of elections, says more than 200 polling stations will be running across the country's islands on Thursday.
When they close the voting at 4, they will do the counting at their polling stations. They will announce the results of those polling stations there, and then they will come back with an election report.
And while the Tonga electoral roll comes in at 64,700 registered voters, Mr. Vuki says it's unlikely that many people will turn up.
Some of the people here have migrated or moved to New Zealand or Australia. Their names are still on the roll. We can't really remove their names except they tell us that they've changed their citizenship. So that has been a challenge for us because we don't provide the facilities for overseas voters.
Peter Vuki says the general election results should be announced on Thursday night. The 17 People's Representatives and 9 Nobles Representatives will then be sworn into Parliament and elect a Prime Minister among them. Following that, the Prime Minister will name their cabinet, which may include up to 4 ministers selected outside of Parliament.
Celebration time for Manu Samoa and their fans on Wednesday morning as the team secured their ticket to the 2027 Rugby World Cup in Australia. Meanwhile, the Flying Fijians are flying into a new rugby competition featuring Tier 1 rugby nations in July 2026. Joining me is our senior sports journalist, Ili Satora. Bola Ili, finally some good news for Samoan rugby fans with Manu Samoa qualified. How did they manage to do that?
Yes, definitely cause for celebrations earlier this morning in Dubai when Manu Samoa fought all the way through until the end to hold Belgium in a 13-all draw in the final game of the final qualifying tournament for the 2027 Rugby World Cup. Samoa just needed a draw going into that game. They had actually taken the lead and they were leading 13-6 towards the end of the game after Abraham Papali'i had scored the decisive try in the 63rd minute. But then Belgium came back with their captain Jean-Maurice Dikober scoring 6 minutes from time, and the conversion meant that the game was tied up and tense moments towards the end of the match. But Manu Samoa managed to hang on. They did enough to hold the Belgium attack, and in the end they won, and now have secured their place at the 2027 World Cup as the 24th team that is in that lineup.
Job well done to Manu Samoa. So with the 24 teams confirmed, what happens now?
Okay, so what the teams are now going to look forward to is the official pool draws. Right? That is going to be done in Australia on December 3rd, and from that draw we will know what teams are going into what pools. Definitely, Australia will be in Pool A or Pool 1 because they are the host. And with the new format of having 24 teams, increased from the 24 at the last tournament in 2023, now we have 24 teams going to Australia in 2027. That means that we probably have 6 pools of 4 teams each, which makes it interesting to see how the format will turn out, how the draws will turn out on December 3rd, and what will happen from then on as the teams gear up for the kickoff in 2027. So now everybody will be looking forward to December 3rd when the pool draws happen, and we will know what teams are in what pool and who will be playing who.
Fiji Rugby is also celebrating somewhat with news of their inclusion in the new Nations Championship. What is this new competition?
This Nations Championship has been in the pipeline. I think over the last 3 years, they've been talks of getting this done. Actually, this is what used to be 6 Nations and the Rugby Championship, which involved the 6 Nations, the Northern Hemisphere teams, and then the Rugby Championship, which is the Southern Hemisphere teams. But now Fiji and Japan are the new teams included into the Southern Hemisphere competition, and they will join New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, and Argentina. Then the Northern Hemisphere teams will have England, France, Ireland, Italy, Scotland, and Wales. What will happen now is in July, they are going to be the kickoff of the Southern Series. So the Southern teams will be hosting the Northern Hemisphere teams from July 4th next year. And, that will see Fiji playing Wales, playing England, playing Scotland. And in November, the Southern Hemisphere teams go up to the Northern Hemisphere where the second round of games will then happen. But the new thing is that Fiji is now a Tier 1 nation, upgraded to Tier 1, and they are now going to be playing in this new championship from July next year.
So with Fiji being a Tier 1 nation and they're in this new competition, right? What does this mean for other Pacific rugby nations?
Yes, that is an issue that now seems to be generating discussions, because we must remember that Fiji has always been part of what is called the Pacific Nation Cup, and that has been happening over the past so many years. What now it means now is that Fiji will go without the Pacific Nations Cup from next year. So the way I look at it at the moment is that this new competition is designed to happen every 2 years, and it comes in before the Rugby World Cup or in between the Rugby World Cup series. So what that will mean now is Fiji will be out of the PNC in 2026, and that will leave Samoa and Tonga, with the other teams being Canada and the USA, of course, because Japan is now also out of that PNC. And then what it also means is that it will give both Samoa and Tonga the opportunity to try and improve themselves and also try and get into this kind of competition moving forward, because definitely that will open up the space for both Samoa and Tonga without Fiji there, and but the other concern being that it might weaken the competition in the PNC.
That's Pacific Waves for today. Tomorrow we are back in Tonga for Election Day. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.